Imagine you are reading a story which describes the following person this way. A certain man went to a music store in Memphis to buy a record. His name was Vernon. He is from Tupelo, Mississippi, and he was the father of Elvis. You wouldn't need anyone to explain to you who the author is writing about. Though you may not know who Vernon is, all you needed to hear was the name Elvis, and without explanation, you know, based on the fame of the son, that Vernon must be the father of Elvis Presley. There was a father who suddenly appears in the Gospels during the most important event in history. His two sons were apparently so well known to the readers of the Gospel of Mark that Mark doesn't feel the need to explain who they are. Welcome to Building Mettle, brought to you by Barrett & Wilson Sheet Metal. A certain man from Cyrene, Simon, the father of Alexander and Rufus, was passing by on his way in from the country, and they forced him to carry the cross. Alexander, Rufus, and their mother and father are from North Africa and the city of Cyrene, which would have been in modern-day Libya. Like thousands of Jewish people living throughout the Roman Empire, they traveled many days to Jerusalem to observe one of the 3 annual celebrations, the Feast of Passover. Their dad, Simon, was just entering the city from the nearby countryside, minding his own business, when he happened upon a crowded procession. A detachment of Roman soldiers were escorting a bloodied and severely beaten man who fell to the ground under the weight he was carrying. The weight was from a cruel and inhuman instrument of Roman execution, saved only for the worst of criminals. It is a Roman cross, 2 heavy pieces of lumber upon which they will nail the body of the convicted man who is carrying it. Seeing that Jesus of Nazareth, the one who will be crucified, cannot bear the weight, the soldiers grabbed the nearest capable-looking man, Simon of Cyrene, and made him carry the cross the rest of the way to the top of a hill called Golgotha. Simon must have thought, "Man, did I get here at the wrong time?" His day started with holiday plans in Jerusalem, but he arrived at the exact moment in history to witness the greatest injustice ever committed. If Jesus was just an ordinary man who had done nothing but help the sick and the poor and talk about God's love and our need to love each other, it would have been tragically horrific. But Jesus was no ordinary man, which makes what happened even more unjust. He was the Son of God. He also called himself the Son of Man, which the religious leaders knew was an Old Testament claim to being the divine Messiah. He made exclusive statements about himself. He said things like, "I am the way and the truth and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me." He said, "Your father Abraham rejoiced at the thought of seeing my day. He saw it and was glad." Never mind that the Abraham he's talking about lived thousands of years before. "You are not yet 50 years old," they said to him, "and you have seen Abraham?" "Very truly, I tell you," Jesus answered. "Before Abraham was born, I am." At this, they picked up stones to stone him. He had referred to himself using the title, "I am." This is the unspeakable reference to the name of God himself. The religious leaders wanted to kill him for his blasphemy, but they are under Roman authority, and claiming to be God is not a capital crime to Rome. So they must convince Rome that he is guilty of political insurrection, that he instead claims to be king. So they made false political accusations against him at his trial. When the Roman governor Pontius Pilate heard Jesus say to him, "My kingdom is not of this world," he could find no reason to execute him. Pilate tried to set Jesus free, but the Jewish leaders kept shouting, "If you let this man go, You are no friend of Caesar. Anyone who claims to be a king opposes Caesar. So Pilate mockingly says, Here is your king. But they shouted, Take him away! Take him away! Crucify him! Shall I crucify your king? Pilate asked. We have no king but Caesar, the chief priests answered. Finally, Pilate handed him over to them to be crucified. Simon of Cyrene only saw the results of what followed next. Jesus had been beaten and whipped beyond recognition. To mock him and to mock the Jews, the Romans placed a crown of thorns on his head and draped him with a royal purple robe. When they arrived at Golgotha, Simon's job was done. Jesus was then stripped of his clothing, and he was nailed through the hands and feet to the beams of wood and raised upright in humiliation as he suffered the excruciating pain of both the deep, inflicted wounds and the suffocation that comes from hanging in that position. His indescribable suffering would last for approximately 6 hours. Simon, the unexpected witness, saw the sky turn dark during the final 3 hours. He would feel the earth quake beneath him. He would hear the soldiers and onlookers mock him. He would see the mother of Jesus and the other women wail in agony over what they did to her son. And he would hear the voice of Jesus as he said, Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they are doing. And at approximately 3 p.m., he would hear Jesus say, It is finished. Jesus called out with a loud voice, Father, into your hands I commit my spirit. And when he had said this, he breathed his last. There are so many small events that happen randomly to us every day. Whatever divinely ordained path was laid out for Simon that day had been planned long before he was even born. If his arrival in Jerusalem had been delayed by a mere 30 seconds, would he have been the one chosen to come to the cross of Jesus? Would people be reading about him for the next 2,000 years? The life-changing events of those dark hours so impacted him and the life of his family that his sons, Alexander and Rufus, would be famously known for their faith among the followers of Jesus many decades later. What has happened that has led you to this point today in your life? You probably had other plans. But what random events have transpired to bring you here with Simon of Cyrene to the cross of Jesus? We'll talk about what happens after this in our next episode of Building Mettle. But first, here's some tools to take with you. Number 1, no one arrives at the cross at the wrong time. Number 2, every day holds the possibility of a life-changing event. And number 3, the life of Jesus was not taken. It was freely surrendered. We'll be back again soon with another episode of Building Mettle.
The music of Building Mettle is a production of Jed Brewer and Good Loud Media, Oak Park, Illinois. Also special thanks to Christ Community Church, Oak Ridge, Tennessee.